Look at that clickbait title. Let me stop you before you go any further and tell you that if you're a veteran of Monster Hunter and you've been playing for the last 20, nay, last 10 years, then there's nothing in this video that's going to help you out. This video is catered more towards people that are new to Monster Hunter or only played a little bit of World before making the jump. A lot of the content I'm going to talk about might be the stuff you already know, so in my typical fashion of upfronting the knowledge of my videos, let me give you the too long didn't watch of what we're about to get into. Monster Hunter is not a game of permanence in the sense that you need to re-roll characters because you messed up a build. You don't need to level up your weapons and armor, well through experience at least, and nothing you do is wasted in this game. You should be rotating through a few weapons that you really like that give you better advantages for the monsters you hunt throughout this game. Fighting a big, long, ancient dragon, then a bow or dual blades is going to be able to take advantage of shooting down the entire length of it. Maybe you need specific parts and switch to a great sword and cut off those tails. Whatever it is, your weapon is not a set, one size fits all, this is S tier and nothing else matters situation, a best in slot as it were. The meta of this game is to figure out what works for you. S tier weapons in this game are only S tier if you put the time in to learn the movesets and they jive with your method of playing. The same thing is true with armor. There's not one suit of armor that is the absolute best at everything. They have innate weaknesses built into them. Fighting a fire element heavy monster and you keep dying, take a look at your armor and see if the element is what you're weak to. Swap it out for gear that makes sense. Even further, just like I said, you'll be swapping weapons, so you'll choose armor that matches those weapons. Most importantly, have fun. There's so much hyperbole on the internet across ways you're doing something wrong if you're not playing in a certain way. Fuck that. You bought your game with your money, so play exactly how you want. You like using weapons that a random website gives a B tier? Who cares? If you're enjoying the playstyle, then that's all that matters. There's of course more to all this and I'll give practical examples, but that's the too long didn't watch this entire video. So if I lured you in with clickbait and that's all you wanted to know, I want to be respectful of your time. Go ahead and shut the video down and get back to enjoying Monster Hunter Wilds. You can navigate to any part of this video that interests you the most using the chapters about the timeline and the description. And if you end up heading out, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe if the information in this video was helpful for you. Lastly, check me out on Twitch, links below where I stream Monster Hunter as well as plenty of other games. Well, let's get started on what everyone else gets wrong while playing Monster Hunter Wilds. So we're going to open up the video talking about weapons, and this is an op-ed piece, right? I don't have a bunch of critical stuff to show you here and there. I'll mainly just be interlinking a whole bunch of different game content of me killing things. So with your weapon choice, it's important just to know that start the game, choose one, learn it, and see how you like it. What's most important about weapons is that you will struggle very initially, right? And again, this is aimed at people. This is the first time they're picking it up or they didn't play a whole ton of Monster Hunter. Like I played maybe I want to say 20 or 30 hours of Monster Hunter World. I didn't make it to high rank. But I have friends that have played every single one of them. And they are the ones that have given me so much more practical information about this and given me such a better understanding of it. And that the sense that every weapon has its own strengths and weaknesses, and you have to, as I've said plenty of times before, you approach this almost like choosing a fighter in a fighting game. And the biggest thing about choosing a weapon at first is this is going to open the door to learning the game. So for example, I first started off with the sword and shield, and sword and shield is really good. It's fun because it's very newbie friendly, right? You can do a whole bunch of stuff with it. You don't need to sheathe your weapon to sharpen or to quaff a potion, whatever it is. So it allows for a lot of really good fluid movement, all these things. But personally, it just really wasn't clicking 100% with my playstyle. I didn't feel very defensive, even though I had a shield. I didn't feel like I was doing tons of damage, and I didn't really feel that mobile. But I've started to switch over to stuff like the bow or the dual blade, which is access, or given dual blades, which is giving me access to a ton more mobility than I wanted, that I was looking for in Sword and Shield. And in addition to it, and I think it's because I like Perfect Evade, it's such a fun mechanic for me. But also at the same time, it's giving me access to different forms of damage that can be linked to the style of monster that I'm attacking. And I like this. And but the thing is, I picked up dual blade. I'd never played dual blade in Wild. I played longsword. I'm sorry, in World. I played longsword and I played charge blade. Two different weapons in the previously we've just spoken about. And what's important to know is that Every single one of these weapons has its strengths and weaknesses according to the monsters you're fighting, according to the certain things you're trying to do with those monsters. Are you trying to break parts off? Well, maybe you want to use something that's going to be a heavy slashing weapon like a great sword. Are you trying to do a lot of offset attacks and stun things and knock them over? Maybe that's going to be more hammer. All sorts of, do you want to be more support? That's the hunting horn. Do you want to be more ranged, but you also want to be tanky? It's a heavy bow gun. All these things give you different approaches to the game. But what's important though is that you will learn the game better. And as you understand the game and your game knowledge grows, jumping into any one of these is going to be faster. So going back to my very long-winded point a second ago about dual blades, I hadn't played any dual blades, but now that I understood the game better, jumping into dual blades was a much faster process because I understood roughly the combination of buttons that I'm going to be using when I'm going to be, oh my God, the camera shifted backwards and I got like vertigo for a second there. I understand the combination of buttons I'm going to be using. I understand how Y and B, if I'm on an Xbox controller, and how those are going to really be used in conjunction with left and right trigger, and how they're really going to play together, and how I have to use certain things at certain times. All that stuff is it's lodged in your brain, and you understand through your muscle memory and your game knowledge how that works together, because then when you jump into another weapon, you'll understand that. So use whatever weapon you like at the gate. Jump into it, have fun with it, have a great time with it. But don't be afraid to go, man, you know what? I was always between Lance and bow at the beginning. Let me try Lance finally. And you might like Lance more and you never pick the bow back up. The great thing about this game, right, is so if I go to press this, we go to bow, I have all these things here for bow, right? The upgrade list here, that's just upgrading the what my upgrade paths look like, right? But you'll notice that none of this says experience. Oh, you need 5,000 bow experience to open up the Dosha Griefbringer, right? Or you need this much experience for this one. Nope, you don't. You just need the parts. So as you can use the weapon you're already proficient in to get the parts you need to, go ahead and swap to whatever you want. Again, using my anecdotal experience, dual blades I didn't have any experience with, and I just went ahead and crafted the Chthonian Suragamas, and I'm off to the races, dude. Like I hadn't played with them at all in the game, and I'm immediately up to snuff with the damage profile I need to play at the hunter rank that I am. So have fun with these. Use them to the best of your ability. Go and spend time in training, and you're going to click with a new one at any point. And understand too that when you're playing with your weapon, like for example, I was fighting against, let's go ahead and go back over here, and we'll go over here, and we'll go over here, and we'll go to the field guide, then we'll go to large monster field guide. All these monsters here. So I was fighting the Jin Dahad with my bow. It's a great weapon to fight it's a great weapon to fight the Jin Dahad with, because it's a big, long, slow dragon, right? I can get plenty of shots on target. I can understand things, and it's a really great and easy way for me to go ahead and do it. But you know what? If I'm fighting the Odogaron, it's way harder with a bow. That thing's jumping around. It's going all over the place. It's hard to peg down. It's hard for me to really get my shots on target. I need to use tracer rounds way, way, way more. So maybe it makes more sense to switch on over to my dual blade or my sword and shield. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing that penalizes you for swapping over to a different weapon. So use that to your advantage. Don't feel stuck on one weapon if you don't like it. I mean, if you have 100 hours in the game and you've never touched the gun lance, you're going to pick the gun lance up way faster than if you only had 5 hours in the game. And even if you only have 5 hours in the game, who gives a shit? Switch to the gun lance if you want, because you'll be able to pick it up just as fast as you were the other one you were struggling with, because it wasn't jiving with your playstyle. So many of these videos tell you this is the best weapon for beginners. This is the best weapon for this or that. The only weapon that is the best weapon is the weapon that you actually like playing with, that actually jives with what you want out of a video game. It's like if I were to jump into Call of Duty and someone were to tell me the only way to play Call of Duty is to do no scope sniping, and I'd be like, I cannot play like that. That is a toxic way of playing a video game. I like running and gunning with an SMG or hanging back with an assault rifle. You know, it's like you see so much stuff like that gears you towards a certain way of playing. Just remember, that's the way that they like to play, or that's the way that a small community likes to play. So play the hell how you want. And hopefully this is giving you a context on how weapons are going to be monster specific, but also most importantly, player specific and playstyle specific. That brings us over to a conversation about armor. And I think it's very easy to choose armor based off of looks, which is fine. And in the high rank, we'll talk about that in a second here, but high rank, that's no big deal. But But it's so easy to just to kind of like, okay, I'm gonna craft this, and I'm only gonna use this. And I'm sorry if I'm spoiling the armor for you. I know that a lot of people like to see it gradually as it unfolds for them. A spoiler alert, I suppose. But this armor is not a one size fits all. This armor is going to change. It's going to dynamically alter the way that you either play the game with your character or the things that are going to do advanced damage to you. In the previous video that I put up talking more about how armor works and how we have two different types of defense when it comes to any attack. The defense stat, which is a flat raw damage mitigation, and then the element stat, which works in conjunction with the defense stat to add a further mitigation to a specific resistance or specific element. I apologize, I have terrible allergies in Southern California. But what you should know is all this stuff is just going to change. You're always going to be swapping this stuff around, either for the specific monster you're fighting, the specific weapon you're using, or the specific equipment group or set bonuses you're pursuing. So let's take some actual examples here. This is the low rank here, but this will help me what the hell I'm trying to say, my point, nonetheless. So Chupacabra was like the first set I made. No big deal, right? It was the first set I made, though, because it gave me, was it speed eating that I wanted off of this? No, I think it was just the first set I had pieces for. Let's go to a different one that actually had practical use for the character I was playing. The Balahara, there we go. So the Balahara set was the first low rank set I crafted because it had evade extender, quick sheath, and those were the two I was using the most. Because I was using a sword and shield and a bow, I wanted to take advantage of the evade extender while I was using my bow and the quick sheath while I was using both. So that's why I made this suit of armor, and it helped me out in that scenario. But maybe, you know, I'm using, I think Alloy is really good at this. I can't remember off the top of my head. Let's just say tremor resistance is something you're trying to pursue, or flinch free, whatever. Maybe you're trying to be more defensive, or you're fighting against something that does more fire damage. Well, the Chemitress gives you, I think it's like Chemitress, right? The Chemitress gives you fire resistance, so it helps against all that fire damage that the Chemitress is going to do. It helps you out with flinch, or maybe you want to be more of a tanky role. Maybe you want to help out with certain specific damage types you're trying to do. All these things give you different dynamic ways to play the game, to access certain skills. Because remember, your equipment skills stack with the equipment skills on your weapon and stack with the equipment skills added from your decorations. So you'll be constantly rotating these around that fit the scenario. Here's the Rompopolo. It gives you poison resistance because maybe you're dealing with a bunch of Rompopolos and you just can't get your poison resistance up because they just keep smacking you around. There's other creatures that do poison damage, right? So this gives you, or the Nursilla here, which gives you blind, poison, and sleep resistance. Remember, any one of those resistance stats on the far right corner, as soon as you hit 20, it gives you immunity to that element's blight. So for example, if I had 20 Dragon Res, then I would be immune to Dragon Blight. It cannot apply itself to me. So each one of these suits of armor is going to swap with your weapon. It's going to swap with the monsters you are attacking. Those are the most important two big things here. So right now, I was using a lot of the Ray Dow set before because the Ray Dow set gave me Constitution and Latent Power. And if I look at those, latent power here, while temporarily increases affinity and reduces stamina depletion when certain conditions are met. That's 100% how I'm using my bow, and especially dual blades too. Or if I go over to Constitution, there it is. This is going to reduce stamina depletion when evading, blocking, or doing certain other actions, which played into my sword and shield as well as my bow. And then I've got Ray Dow's Voltage here, which moderately extends the activation time of the latent power skill, which helps me out further. So I take these things together, and it creates a suit that is going to give me the stats on the lower right. So my Thunder Res is at 20, but my Water Res is at -10. My Ice Resistance is at -15. All these things need to be taken into consideration when you're taking a look at it, and especially your defense. Your defense stat has breakpoints every 80 defense. It will reduce the damage you take by 80 at 1/2, 160 is 1/3, 240 is 1/4, and it goes up from there, right? Every 80 is one denominator shift. So knowing those things helps you stack in certain directions how you want to do that. And it's different when you get into high rank too, right? Because high rank has alpha and beta, which allows you to choose, okay, do I want to focus on more equipment skills, or do I want to focus on more of my decoration slots? So you have that little bit of capability. And with the high rank gear, you can use it for appearances. So you can actually just kind of choose what you want from where you want to look, and then swap things off to have yourself fit very specific looks or very specific defense stats or very specific equipment skills. That's the most crucial thing. You're swapping this stuff around to hit the breakpoints that you need, either from equipment skills, from defense stats, from elemental resistance, whatever it is. So in swapping your weapons, it feeds into swapping your armor. And all of that links back to taking a look at the specific, let's just say a monster field guide again. And let's just look, I don't know, the Rathalos here, Guardian Rathalos. So we can see recommended elemental attack is Thunder and Dragon. So maybe I swap my weapon off for one that does Thunder or Dragon elemental attacks. I can see effective status effects are Poison, Sleep, Paralysis, Blast, Blight, Stun, but not Exhaust. So it just gives you a better idea and understanding of how to approach these things. Use your field guide to the best of its ability and use your elemental attacks here. I'm using my controller and I'm sometimes like a fat finger, and sometimes I use my mouse and keyboard. If you have a recommendation for good controllers to use on the PC, go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. I'm using a wired SCUF gaming controller and it's okay, but might just jump back to that PS5. I need recommendations. But segue aside, use all these things in conjunction. Play around with your weapons, play around with your armor, try new things. There's nothing that holds you back. There's nothing that penalizes you. And if you can't do it right out the gate, just simply go and do a hunt or two and you'll probably have the materials needed. It's the biggest driving force of this game is kill things, get parts, make items, go kill things with new items to go get newer items. It's the feedback loop. It's the gameplay loop of this entire game. And if you have recommendations too, as a veteran, like, hey, you know, I've seen a lot of people make content about this subject and I think they're missing the mark because this is the actual important thing. Here's the actual nuts and bolts of whatever it is. I don't know the saying that I'm trying to think of, but hopefully this gives you a better idea on how to approach the game that isn't so min-maxy, that isn't so playing the game with blinders on, isn't so tunnel vision. And it gives you a way to actually approach the game in the way that you probably should have been approaching it from the start, which is very open and really experimental and trying to figure out how everything clicks for you and why you're switching to different things as it befits the monster, the weapon, the resistance, what have you. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Go ahead and let me know in the comment section below if there's other things that you would give as far as advice goes to new monster hunters out there. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one and take care.